We are young. We are powerful.
We are female.
We are Muslims. We are Sisters Speak, destroying the stereotype of stigmatized Muslim women.
Assalamu alaikum. You're listening to a Sisters Speak podcast, and you're here with me, Amina.
Me, Mariam.
Me, Lamisa.
Me, Sonia.
So, if you haven't listened to our podcast before, they're quite relaxed, maybe a little bit different from our live shows, maybe quite similar. I don't know, it's up to you. But today we're talking about organisation. It's a key part of your life. You have to be organised. But how do you do that? Oh, well, Lamisa thinks maybe not. We'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
But yeah, I'm saying that, but am I organised? I don't know. Maybe not.
We'll find out in this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm going to start with Lamisa.
With me. Okay.
So, is organisation essential? Why, or is it like, is organisation something that is applicable to only certain things? Like, do you have to be organised for everything?
I think it depends on the type of person that you are and what you're trying to be organised for. And I feel like organisation, everyone has this idea in their head. Organisation is like, I don't know, a list of things, or everything is, you know, organised, categorised, all those different types of things. But I feel like you can still be organised by being disorganised.
No, yeah,
do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
But you
like an organised mess. Right? Yeah, of course. That's what I tell my mum.
What does your room look like?
My room is fine, but I mean, like, I think it depends. Like, obviously, in certain professions, you have to know what you're doing, and I feel like that's what organised is: knowing what you're going to do, and then doing it. I feel like disorganised is when you're just a mess and like frazzled. You don't know what I'm going to do.
Like, you don't have a plan.
You don't have a plan.
Right.
But what if you do have a plan and you do have that sense of direction, and you have but you don't like meet it? Then how does that? What does that look like?
Well, I feel like meeting it is something else. But I feel like with organisation, it's more about, you know, how you're going to get to where you're trying to go.
I think for me, it's more about how do you follow those steps to get to where you want to go. For me, that's me more organisation, because that means you're actually taking the steps towards it rather than having a plan. I can make a plan and make a list, but am I actually fulfilling it? That's another question.
But isn't that organisation though? Having a plan.
But then if you have a plan, I think if you have a plan but you don't actually follow it, then you're statutory, you're in one space.
Yeah, but that organisation wasn't really organised.
But that's the thing. I think it's how you apply the organisation. I don't think that itself is organisation. I think that's you doing it. That's you taking action for it. You've done the organisation. Now you need to do the thing for it.
I guess there's two aspects of it then, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. But yeah.
I feel the same as Mariam. I feel like
do you?
I think maybe it depends on who you are as a person. Because
definitely,
if I have like a goal in my head or a plan, I'm never going to get it done unless I take even more like mini steps, if that makes sense. Like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? I have to do this, this and this.
For sure.
It's not getting done.
Yeah. But I think that's what I was saying, as in making the plans, the steps to get to your goal.
Yeah, I think more importantly is following it. I can make the plan, but it's just
that's
me
with
doing
that's
it.
With everything. Like, I feel like, and that's why people say organisation is key.
Yeah,
because if you don't do it, then you end up
directionless,
failing. I guess.
You know, when I realised that organisation is key, I was at uni. Did the 3 years. First 2 years, I was winging it when it came to assignments. I was like, I'll revise. You know, I'm sure you've all been there, right? Yeah. We've all been there. And then one day I just didn't get such a good grade, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Like, maybe I should have planned more for that assignment. And then I was like, you know, I'll give this whole planning thing a go. And so then I looked at the reading list. I was like, yeah, let me go to the library, get out this book, get out that book. You know, I did the thing. I did the readings. And a lot of organisation went into just reading, because it was like forcing myself 2 pages that day, 2 pages that day. You know, you've literally got to like compartmentalize even that.
Reading is a task in itself. It's
right
crazy.
To the very right to that. And so I did it. This is just one assignment I'm talking about, and then I got a good grade, and I was like, oh my god, why did I do this for the past 2 years?
Oh my god, I was
like, this is what I need to do. So it's like, but you've really got to find what works for you, because I've got some friends and they can just literally plan it out, whack it out in a week. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, done, finish, get it out the way, not think about it. Whereas me, I'm like, oh, if I've got 4 weeks to do it, I'm gonna use those 4 weeks to fully do it. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
I feel like every student's been there, you know, at that point where they're like, oh my god, if I actually revise, wow, it really changes your life. But you know, I think it's hard though, because you plan. Like in my head when I wake up in the morning, like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go pray, then I'm gonna eat breakfast, and then you slip into that procrastination phase. I think organization, procrastination kind of go hand in hand. They're so together, and it's like I end up watching TV for an hour and a half and I don't even realize it, and then I come back and I'm like, my whole plan's out the window. I
don't like times. I've tried that. I've tried the really timetable thing. Yeah, I can't. I prefer lists. So we were talking about this the other day, and it's like to-do lists. If you just tick it off, it gives you so much satisfaction.
It really does.
I don't get that level of satisfaction.
I do though.
I don't like the way people make it out. It seems like you click it and they're like, whoa, my life was just changed.
You know what? It just feels good to set out to do something and do
I
it.
can imagine that.
I feel like the progress of lists is what makes me feel good. Like I've done one step.
I definitely prefer lists to timetables, because timetables are just too...
She's a doctor, what can you say?
I find like especially with revision, because I'm sure a lot of people like want to know how we revise, or you might not want to, but I mean...
but you might need to know.
Anyway, since you're already listening. With revising, and when you have like stuff to learn, instead of like, say, if you're doing your GCSEs or A-levels, instead of going like, okay, I'm going to do an hour of maths, I'm going to do an hour of this, like subject by subject, and giving yourself time slots to do it in, I'd say in each subject, make out a list of contents that you need to go through, and maybe have your notes or have whatever you are for that section that you want to go through, and then have times, like I know everyone knows when they best revise or when they don't best revise. In those times, think, okay, today I'm going to try and get through this, this, and this, however long it takes or however little time it takes, I'm just going to try and get through that. And it's getting through that content. And once I feel like, you know, the satisfaction you guys find when you tick something off a list, I get that satisfaction when I know I've done the thing I need to do.
So it's like completion, like I've completed it, tick, achieve,
and we can move on to the next bit. Like I think that's the best way of going about it. People who can follow timetables, great for you,
good for you,
but for me it's like, I don't know, I get stressed out when it gets to the end of that time and I haven't done the task.
I'm like, oh, now it's 1 p.m. and I didn't do that. Where do I go from here?
What do I do?
The next task, the previous task? You're just in a muddle.
I think I'm with you and Sonia as well. I think for me it's just taking the first step, and I love that satisfaction once I've done, like for example I do literature, so I have to do a lot of reading. So I do I do like make it in sections, so I do like 50 pages. I know 2 pages is a lot for you guys, but I do
say 50 pages.
So I read so I do literature degree, so I have to read like 4 books a week, so I get satisfaction when I read 50 pages. I'm like, okay, that's like quarter of the book. If I do that 4 times, I'm done with that book. That's 1 book, that's done.
A good way of thinking about it.
So like it's always about doing it in like sections, and I think I done this training like last year, and even our memory works like that. When you section things in 3s, you tend to absorb a memory more.
I've heard of that, apparently it stays in your head longer. Do you guys have any like crazy stories where your organization has kind of led you to, I don't know, deadlines or things that you've missed or anything like that?
I've never missed a deadline.
When I was doing my GCSEs, every single piece of coursework that I did up until the deadline was like subpar, like I wasn't happy with it, so I had to redo every single piece of coursework in the last 2 weeks before the deadline.
Oh my god.
So that it was like, no one made me do it, I just
no, but
I felt like I had to do it, so I did, and that was crazy 2 weeks of my life.
I feel like though sometimes in like uni though, for me sometimes the things I just literally just do it for the sake of just doing it, I get such a better grade. No, but like in terms of like certain modules, if I do assessment and I really don't like it, and I just do it on like in the moment. Like I remember my first year when I did journalism, like I did 1 module in it and I hated it. I just hated it so much. I didn't even bother. I didn't research nothing. I spent 1 hour doing it or 2 hours, and I got a 70 in it. And the other,
that's you, Mariam.
No,
you're
but
smart, naturally.
No. But in terms of literature, I spent so much time on it. I like researched and everything. And then my lecturer's like, you don't have to write essays, and I'm just like, okay, that's number 1. You don't have to say that to me. And number 2, I was like, how? Like I thought it's contingent upon efforts.
But sometimes it's those weird like quick bursts where you end up making the best.
I feel like that happens all the time. Like when I've not enjoyed something and it's like, oh, that was a good thing. Like I did something good there. Like sometimes you just can't tell.
Because the other day I had a deadline for one of my like we have to write an essay and we had to provide a 500-word sample. I hadn't read any of the papers up until that point. This is really bad, but I hadn't read any of the papers up until that point. Yeah, you really shouldn't do this. And I hadn't researched around the topic, and with science it's very factual, and if you don't know, like, you can't write about it basically. So in the morning, like on the, I think 2 days before the day of the submission, I hadn't done any prior reading before that. In the morning, woke up at somehow randomly at 5 a.m. and I just went online, read all the articles and wrote it up. And I think it took me about 2 hours to do the plan and the 500-word sample and reading all the references, which is like about 10 or 15. And like, I just did it in that burst. And I think sometimes you're the type of person where it just comes to you in a burst. You don't have to necessarily plan every single detail. I mean, that's only if you're that type of person. Don't do if you're not that type of person.
Yeah, that's, I think
it's a hit and miss.
That's not something that you
should always do, and that's not something I always do. But I think with that situation, like, it was okay, because the stuff that I was coming out, like, I tried to write it before, and the stuff that was coming out was rubbish. So I feel like with me, it's definitely sort of get all the rubbish out of my system first, and then
that's me
start
as well.
What do you talk about, like, when you're in the moment? Do you know that moment? Everyone knows the moment. Suddenly you're on a roll, you're non-stop, and anything that's happening around you, you're not getting distracted by it. You're like, nope, got my thing, gonna finish my thing. But you know, you can't plan that moment.
Exactly.
It just
that's why that moment
Don't
is
rely on
always so last minute.
Yeah, sure. 5 a.m. Who wakes up at 5 a.m.?
I think the reason why it becomes a moment is because you actually have a deadline and you're scared. So it comes out.
But I wouldn't recommend doing it on a regular basis.
No.
Draining.
And it might not always work. And sometimes you could be talking rubbish. Yeah. And then what?
You think in the moment it's good, but that's only you. You have to get it done, and it's you know, it depends on what type of person you are, I think.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, like, I think discipline is quite a big part of organization. So when did you realize that you had to discipline yourself?
I think I realized early on, but I only practiced it recently.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. I don't know, coming that transition from my placement year, so I had a placement year last year, and transitioning from that to uni, I feel like I'm in first year again. I really can't find my feet. I'm finding it so hard to discipline myself. I'm finding it so hard to organize myself, and I think I'm coming into that kind of space where I'm working really hard, but I'm not working smart, and I'm trying to find strategies to kind of like mitigate that, because it's really difficult. I feel like I'm trying to do everything, but it's not giving me direction. So it's kind of also like narrowing that down.
Because I think what you're saying, everyone says work hard, but also work smart. But at the same time, it's sort of like, what is working smart? Like, how do I know what I'm doing perhaps isn't smart because I'm spending like 3-4 hours on a single lecture, but it's like, how do I change that? Like, what am I meant to do?
I think it's about quality. It's kind of making sure you get the most out of your studying. So, you know, sometimes you can spend 6 hours on a thing, but you're just like overviewing it. But if you focus on one aspect and you understand it well, then you can build up on that. And I think it's kind of figuring out, you know, what does your course entail and what is the purpose of it, and your assessments as well. It's kind of looking at everything and what you have to do in the end.
But back to discipline, because I was just thinking, not just in terms of uni and education, but work or
housework,
anything you do in life. For me, what really works is an incentive. So a reason for me to work hard, a reason for me to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning. Do you know what I mean? So finding those incentives, it might be money. That's very common. It might be your dream job, your dream car. It could be something small. It could be, I just want to make that person happy today. That's my incentive to wake up early, go out and do what I need to do. So I think a good idea is just to find something that motivates you. So that motivation is what will give you the discipline that you need.
Because I feel like from school in a young age, they kind of tell you, like, you need to work hard, you need to do this. And loads of kids, like, realize, if I don't put the effort in, then it's not going to come out. But I feel like it only comes into play quite later on in life. Like, loads of people sort of just coast through. Like, we know we have to work hard. But
why? Why do we need to
work hard? Exactly. And that's why so many people don't do it. It's like, what am I doing it for?
I think because at school, you literally don't have a choice. Like, I think the reason why we can't follow timetables, all of us, because we had to follow a timetable at school, and it was like, okay, you have this much time in this lesson, and
I think after every lesson.
And I think it's just not. It doesn't flow naturally. Like, life isn't really like that, and I think I don't know. I think it's just a bit of a psychological thing, like going to school, being disciplined by your teachers. And for me, I went to work after college, and then I went to uni. So I found that personally it was such a big jump, because because college is still pretty much like school. Like you still have that discipline. You don't really have a bell. Well, it depends where you go to college, but you still have that timetable. You still have those teachers. They still remind you all the time what you need to do, and there's still that up here is the teacher, and then down here is the student. But at work, you still have obviously like a bit of a hierarchy, but everyone is on the same like playing field. But for me, I found that difficult because I don't know, at first I thought, yeah, I can do this. This is fine. Like I had an office job, and it was just like, I don't know. Now when I look back, I was still a kid basically, and I was like working in an office, and in my head, I found it quite difficult to grasp that I'm on the same level as this 50-year-old man. And
but that's when you realize you're an adult. Yeah, that's what makes you from child in education to adult. Whether you're in education or if you're in work, being an adult means you discipline yourself.
Exactly.
You make yourself do these things. There's no one else now. Maybe not a parent, not a teacher, not a manager at work. It's all up to you.
Exactly.
And that's a very adult thing. You know, that's when you feel that transition.
I think that's like, something that you're not really taught though.
It's quite scary.
That's why it was really weird for me, because it's like I just had to find out for myself. And obviously even just going into uni, if that's the first thing you do after like going to college and school, you know, your lecturers aren't going to chase you like that. Yeah, you have. It's all up to you.
That's the thing
I found. Like when I went to uni, it was so independent.
Yeah, everything is independent.
You might go up after the lecture to ask a question, and if your question isn't specific enough, they're just not gonna. They're gonna say, "You go do that yourself and find it out." Yeah. It's a lot more independent learning than it is.
It's your decision to go there.
Exactly.
No one told you to go.
No one told you to go, and it's crazy the amount of independent learning that you have to do, and it's like a massive jump. And I was just like, if I don't do this, then no one else is gonna nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna affect badly on me.
No one's gonna
chase me.
Only yourself.
I'm not gonna have a detention or anything like that. I'm just gonna get a really rubbish grade at the end and not pass and not go into the next year. Like it's all onto you, and you don't realize that until you're really pushed in at the deep end. It was a shock. I was there like, whoa, because I had a lot of my lectures left until the holiday before my exam, and I was trying to revise, and I was doing lectures on the side, and it was all like building up, and I was like, I don't have to go through this level of stress if I just do the work beforehand. Like it's your own personal choice.
But I think that's
a
good
work
skill.
Under the pressure, good for you, great. But I don't like the pressure. Like I can work under it, but I don't enjoy it. It's not something that I enjoy, and it's not something that I want to do. So definitely throughout first year, and now I'm in second year, like that's something I've been working on. Alhamdulillah, this year I've been keeping up on all my lectures. So.
Hey, mashallah. I think one strategy for me was in university was building relationships with my lecturers. I think once you know them on a personal level, they'll be able to understand what you're going through and your strengths and weaknesses. And
I'm
I think
yet to do that.
No,
I just feel like I can't. Like, what am I meant to say when I go?
No,
hi?
but you just ask them.
It's so awkward.
I really utilize the office hours, and like you have to kind of break that barrier. You kind of have to talk about yourself. That's what I did my first year. Like these are the things I'm like I want to improve on. This is the reason why I have like these weaknesses, and they really like. No one really talks to them outside the lectures, so they get quite happy as well.
They seem like they want to talk.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I just find it awkward.
I think it's really good.
It works for some
people. Yeah, because there are like these few. You always see those few students like they go up after the lecture and they're like talking to the lecturer.
That's me. And it worked for me.
Always just look at each other like, what are they
talking about?
Say it in front of everyone. Like ask your questions so we all know. But I think it's good when you need it. Yeah, and I feel I really want to, but I just don't know how. Yeah, and also like,
no, I definitely. I'm so glad I did that because after I came back from my placement year, I don't know anyone in my class, and no one even includes me. It's so sad. Like no one includes me. They're so cliquey. But for me, it's like whatever. All the lecturers know me so well. They can help me. Like I know what the structure is of the literature essays. Anyways, all I need is just their input. That's it.
But that's like another example of disciplining yourself. Yeah, you made yourself do that. You took your own time out. And thought, I'm gonna go and make it work for me. Yeah, so it's a very adult thing for you to do. Really.
Yeah. Loads of people do say like make friends with your lecturers. It would be
100%. Like it comes in handy.
You told me as well.
Yeah, I told you before as well. tell everyone, just make relationships, because even if you feel like you're annoying them, they're getting paid £9,000 for that.
You're paying them.
Yeah. So it's actually
true.
it's your transaction. They have to give you that service. That's how I see it as.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and you're paying £50 per lecture. It's actually literally £50.
Worked out though.
So
yeah.
How would you give tips to like go up and
to speak
make
to
that relationship?
I think so for me, I started from my first year. I wouldn't really know how to go in second year, but it's just emailing and saying them that I'm struggling with this. Could we talk about this? And then like, you know, just go. It's another skill, having communication skills as well. It's just going to them, asking them the specific question. Could we talk about this aspect? I didn't understand. Could we elaborate? Oh, I'm also struggling with this. And sometimes like I kind of said like, this might be a silly question, but could I ask this? And they're like, no, it's a silly question. So you kind of make yourself look naive, and they kind of like feel empathetic like towards you, and then, you know, that's that type of thing. So yeah, I think for me it's like definitely building relations, and I even took that in my placement year as well. I really like became comfortable with my manager, and that really helped me when I was going through problems throughout my year. So it's always like good to make that connection and that relationship. And someone actually told me last week that this whole world runs on relationships, and it really does.
For sure.
That's true. I feel like if you are not as open as, I think there is a limit to how open you should be professionally, or on so many different levels, but I feel like if you're not open at the beginning and you run into a problem, then
where do you turn to? Who do you turn to?
How do you get out of that problem? We're just saying bye to Lamisa.
I'm gonna be off because my mum's here. This is a very real situation, but yeah, I'll see you guys.
Thank you, Lamisa.
Thanks, Lamisa.
Bye.
But we're carrying on. What was I saying?
So, in terms of managers and stuff, like having...
I think with any, like you said, at uni, I think it's important that they know who you are in case there's some kind of issue. Then there's that trust between you, and there's that, you know, then you can like you have something to fall back on if there's a problem.
But even as a reference, because when you're going to the real world, new job, new workplace, you need a reference from maybe someone at university or the manager at your previous workplace. And I actually found this struggle because I needed a reference from someone at uni, and I thought, I've had so many lecturers, so
they don't know who I am.
Who do I ask? Who even knows me? Genuinely, I genuinely thought about it, and I was like, who knows me? Now I need to get back in contact, because I can't just throw them in it like, here's my reference for a new workplace. Do you know what I mean? I was like, hiya, how are you? Like trying to see who remembers me. You've got to build rapport. It's so important. Like
100%.
You will need it. You will need it in the future. And not just in problems, good things, bad things. Absolutely anything. You know, it's nice to have that person, but it doesn't need to be extra personal or anything. It can just literally just be, let them know your name, know who you are, be able to give a brief description of you. Like they should be able to look at you and be like, oh yep, Sonia, she's always on time, works hard, and say that truthfully, not what is it that you do well, like not like a recap. They should know who you are. That's just
very good advice.
Thing. I definitely think that.
I think that's something that kind of like sparked in my mind while you were saying that it's really important to network sideways. We always think about networking with managers and higher people in the hierarchy, but you don't know, like for example, us three in this room, we could go in different kind of sectors in the future, but you might know that I'm interested in student engagement, and then you might find an opportunity for me similarly the same way as that. So I think it's like, don't underestimate networking with the people surrounding you.
100%. That's very good advice. So anyone, you network with anyone wherever you go. Anyone could come in handy in the future, and it might be a weird way to think about it, like, oh, well, are we only making friends and relationships for our own personal gain? It's not necessarily, but bear in mind, people will do the same with you. People will do the same.
It's like you're not gonna like treat them in a negative way. It's not that you can equally be useful to them.
Exactly.
So
it's give and take.
I think for me personally, organizing myself this year has been such a struggle because as I mentioned, I had a placement year, and for me it's like I'm just literally doing so many hours but I'm not really getting anywhere. So what do you guys think I could do to kind of help that? Because I preferred actually working. I preferred working because I thought it's 9 to 5. I leave work at work. I don't think about it at home. And now I'm going back to uni, going to my final year. It's like it's an ongoing stress and I don't know how to deal with it. So what advice could you guys give? Because you graduated, Sonia, you're in your final year as well, and you've been quite consistent. And obviously you did your second year as well. You didn't have a break in between. What do you guys think in terms of organizing myself?
Well, I'd say I kind of went through the similar thing because when I went into my first year, I was like, before that I was in full-time work. And I don't really know
I can give advice as the graduate. Yeah. For me, second year was difficult. There were tough times. And you really, really, truly have to find the love somewhere. You might not love the module you're doing, the content of the course, but you need to go back, what is the reason I'm doing this?
Right.
I don't want to say it, but I am paying money for this. Like, you do have to remind yourself of that. And where is it going to get me afterwards? How many years do you have? Just this one?
It's just I literally got 2 semesters left, and that's it. 2 semesters left.
Think about it like that. Look, you've done the hardest part. That's what I always thought. Every time, think, look how much I've achieved. Look, focus on the positives, right? Tick, I got a good grade in that. Yes, I'm capable of writing essays. I can do exams. I'm good at this. Just remind yourself of that. Look how far you've come. University is such a big achievement. Like, that's a whole other thing to think about. But just remind yourself, look, I love this. I want to get a degree in was it English literature?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to get that degree. Remind yourself why you're doing it. And then back to organization, just think, you know what, I can do this. Plan it out. Don't use times like we mentioned earlier. Use the course content and think, I can do that. Yes, I'm capable. Look at your weaknesses. What can't you do? What is the thing that's giving you the stress? What is the stressful thing? Compartmentalize. We mentioned that earlier. Circle it out and go back to talking to people. Just like you said, talk to the lecturer that you find difficult topics in. Talk to someone that might help you, someone in your course. There's always university. One good thing is people available to help you, but more for yourself. Just remind yourself why you're doing it. Remind yourself that you love it and you've done the hardest part.
I feel like I'm getting a motivational surgery. Yeah, I'm getting a surgery.
You've done the hardest part, I'm telling you. And me personally, once I got to third year, I feel like I've got to hang on this now. I know you took a break, so it's a bit different for you, isn't it? So, but you just need to get back into the track.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when it's like the last couple of weeks, you're going to look back and think, oh, that was okay. I was all right. I did okay. It's just when you're
in that moment. Yeah. I think we don't remind ourselves, like we don't take a step back and reflect on what we've done, all the positives. We're so engrossed in the moment, thinking, oh my God, I've got like 5,000 words in 1 week. How am I going to do this?
You can do it.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to remember, like, I've actually done this before.
Yeah.
So I can do it. Mm-hmm. I think with anything, we always think, oh my God, I can't do it. But you did it before, like you can do it again.
Because even my sister, she done her undergrad 3 years, done the degree, then she took a year out, and now she's gone back into education to her master's. And she literally just came and she was like, Sonia, I need your help. I forgot how to write an essay. Like, I don't know how to do this. Why did I pick a master's? And I'm like, you were not accepted to the master's. If they didn't think you were capable of doing it, they would not have accepted you. They look at there's entry requirements for masters. Anyone can't just get in. I'm like, they saw your undergrad, they saw your personal statement, they know you're capable of doing it. So that's just something she had to, again, remind yourself of, like, no, I can do it. I think everyone just gets into a state of panic. You just go crazy, like, oh my gosh, why have I done this? I've got 5,000 words, I can't do it. Just remind yourself you can do it. There's help available. There's always, other ways that you can like, I don't know if you know, but like extenuating circumstances, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So, there's ways around it, but just don't panic, calm down, remind yourself, and always think, I want to do this. There's no one's forcing you to do this. You want to do this. You want the degree. A couple more 9 a.m. starts, a couple more late finishes, and you're done. Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know what? I think it's important to always give yourself that pep talk. Because it's so easy to
come to radio like I do to get that pep talk.
It's so easy to spiral, and if you're by yourself spiraling, then who's going to help you? Like in the middle of the night typing up an essay, like you have to. I think it's so important to like take a step back, remind yourself of what
I might call Sonia and start crying to her now.
Just listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Take a breather. It's so important. I mean, we talk about mindfulness as well. It's all that stuff.
Definitely. I think one thing I'm going to kind of do is kind of introduce, I think we've talked about in podcasts and radio shows before, self-care. Give myself incentives to kind of like, if I do this, I'm going to have a chocolate bar or something. I don't know. Something to just...
relaxing bath.
Yeah, something to just to kind of get me through.
Like rewarding yourself.
Yeah. I think one thing actually kind of helps me is prayer, especially when I'm doing like loads of hours. I'm like, okay, if I do this, I've got prayer at like 2:30 and I have to go. So, because my library is quite like 10-minute walk from the prayer room, but there's like a little forest thing you have to go through, so that's quite relaxing for me.
Nice,
so
that's
I think
part of timetables and discipline.
100%, because I have to do it, otherwotherwise it's just gonna waste time.
But you have to pencil in your
priorities. Yeah, 100%. I think that really helps me. And I think just kind of reminding myself, why am I doing this, and like, I'm not going to give up. Like, I can't give up. There's no choice but to do it now. So I might as well just try to enjoy it, because it's not like I'm going to give up my degree now after like this long. So
I mean, you always could, but don't do that.
No, but I don't see that as a choice. I literally do not see it as a choice, because that is like 2 years of grit. 3 years, actually. I had placement year, so 3 years of grit. I don't have any option but to do it. So I might as well.
I can hear the determination in your voice now. You just needed that pep talk.
I just need that pep talk. Yeah.
You're back on it. You're going to go home and write an essay today, aren't you?
Well.
You are going to do an essay.
We'll see. But tomorrow, because like it's just, there's so much stuff to do. Like, I think it's also because I'm quite falling into that trap of comparing how I was before and how I am now, and I need to kind of look at the things that I've developed. I've gained other skills, especially when I was before my placement year. The surrounding people I had around me, they were really supportive, especially my group in class. But now the people that I have now are really cliquey. They like to stay to themselves. Even the lecturers are a bit like, why do they not know how to communicate to each other? For me, it's such a shock. Like, how could you be in final year and not know the person? Like, you've been with this person for 3 years and you don't know their name. Like, how's that possible? Or at least if you don't know their name, you don't have like that comfortable interaction. And I see that. And for me, I'm very like vocal. I'm like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do that? And the people that I was with, and when they've graduated now, like, if I didn't know how to indent a paragraph, like if someone didn't know how to even to put a colon somewhere, they would spend 5-10 minutes telling that person how to do it. Whereas this type of group of people I have now, they're very reserved, and they're very like, they will keep to themselves. They don't extend a hand. And for me, that was really like, it's very kind of
tough, isn't it?
It's very hard to get through that degree. So what I've done is now just finding a person to study with that doesn't do my course, but just is focused, because that kind of just like helps me to be focused as well.
Just find what works for you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to actually learn how to deal with like a difficult group of people. I think that's such a big part of adult life that we don't realize we have to put up with. Like, when you go to work, you don't get to choose your colleagues. Like, 100%. If you've had great friends throughout uni, then that's amazing. But I think this is good experience for you, although it's quite frustrating. It's really good experience because you have to learn how to work around people that you're not maybe comfortable with, or who aren't on the same page. And doing it alone as well. So finding alternatives. I think that's a skill that you need in anything. If you can't find it the way you're comfortable with, you have to be willing to kind of embrace alternative routes and find alternative routes to make it work for you.
Definitely.
The end of the podcast?
I believe it is. I think the general kind of consensus that we all have is just kind of doing things that works for you, reminding yourself why you're doing certain things, and try to organize yourself according to that. Because when you have a sense of purpose, you're more likely to be motivated and you're more likely to be disciplined.
Any last words, Sonia?
Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Always. We spoke about discipline. Yes, discipline yourself. We are all adults now. Well, we are, not everyone, but and it gets to a stage where you've got to force yourself to do certain things, but there's a difference between forcing yourself and literally like making yourself miserable with all these pressures and deadlines and all of that stuff. Remember why you're doing it, like you said. Remember what you love. Remember what makes you happy. Relax. Organize. Fun times. That's what you said. Pencil in a breather. Remind yourself, I need to see my friend on Saturday. Put that in there. Make yourself happy. So I'd say that's my final words.
I think you both summed it up pretty well. That wraps up the end of our podcast. Remember to tune into our live shows every Tuesday from 6 to 7, and you'll be hearing more podcasts from us. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at InspireFM Luton.